I really learned to use the Feng Shui, the Bagua, and really create a layout with the idea of the right energies, using the right elements, using different materials that gives you that harmony, that balance, that supports families in their home. And then it gave me a whole new vision, new life goals, new dream.
You're listening to She's Got Drive podcast, the podcast that inspires women to be the driver of their own lives through the lives and stories of Black women with drive. And I'm your host, Shirley McAlpine. I'm a business consultant and executive coach and a leadership facilitator working with people and organizations to live their lives by design and not default. Welcome back to another episode of She's Got Drive. And wow, I know that I've not been consistent in putting out episodes, and you know, I want to acknowledge that. I know that I miss a week here and there. So, you know, on the one hand, I apologize for the impact of that. I do intend to be more consistent in September. And on the other, I want to say this is a year like no other. And I want to acknowledge that I'm not keeping up like I normally do. And I don't know if there's anyone out there who's feeling the same. I'm sure there are. So, you know, raise your hand if you're like, wow, I am just about keeping up. What I'm finding is, you know, I have my focus on my work and I have my focus on my family. This is part of my work, the podcast, but it is like my additional part. So sometimes we have to let things drop. You know, sometimes it's been an intentional choice to say that plate is going to fall, because I can't keep spinning that one if I need to keep on top of the other things that I'm working on, and to give myself space to take it down a notch in order to accomplish the things I want to accomplish. I want to say that because I know that sometimes, you know, with the things that we put out on social media, we can present an image, and in the podcast maybe that I've got it all handled, and it's just not the case. You know, I've got some of it handled, and there's some things where I have to kind of like let things go. So I apologize that you are the ones who I let go. You know, I say this is also to share with you, so that if there are some times when you need to you can't handle it all, and you've got to look for what are the things that I can pause, what are the things that I can not do for a week or two to kind of catch my breath, then look proactively at what you can do in order to do that. This year is kicking our butts, all of us, wherever you are in the world. And so we need to pay attention to that. This month, September, is self-improvement month. I think whilst it's like all about, you know, self-development and self-awareness and or any aspects of ourselves that we want to be better and do better, I think one of the things that we can all do better at is self-care and paying attention. And I know that I need to pay attention more and more, even more this year. And if you're not paying attention to your self-care, I invite you to do the same. So this last week, one of the things, I was dealing with a number of things. One of the things that I made sure that I did is I made sure that I got sleep. I went to bed earlier than normal, and that is an intentional act, because when we sleep we heal, so I can focus and restore energy. I'm going to keep this theme around self-improvement the whole of September, and I'm going to invite you to do the same. So stay tuned on the podcast and stay tuned on Facebook, because I'm now, as of next week, we're going to start having conversations around self-improvement and what does it mean after Labor Day weekend. With that, before we go into the interview, I'd love for you to rate and review She's Got Drive. If you see you're getting value, if you enjoy listening to it. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. Thank you for listening and becoming a listener of She's Got Drive. I'm always love to hear from you as well, to see what you're getting from the podcast episodes as well. That's awesome when I get comments and questions and messages from you. I appreciate you so much. The link is in the show notes to rate and review. Okay, so let me tell you about Marie. Marie is the founder and principal of Marie Burgos Design, and that company is a multi-award winning French interior designer, and she's the founder of her own design collection, which is a growing line of home furnishing, and they are beautiful. When you go onto her site and you go to her store, it's absolutely beautiful. through her work, she combines the principles of Feng Shui with the vision for all of her clients. She creates interiors that are harmonious and sophisticated and functional. She is Feng Shui certified master, and which always plays an important role in bringing a harmonious balance in the spaces in which she works. She was born and raised in Paris, and she draws her inspiration from both French design and her family's native home of Martinique. I know you're going to really enjoy these interviews. There's going to be a part 1 and a part 2 next week. So I give you Marie. So I'm excited to speak to you today. So thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for, inviting me. I'm thrilled. It's great to have some positive things happening with all the turmoil, all the pain, all the frustration, everything that's happening at the moment. You're frustrated, you feel hopeless, you're worried for your family, and it's just a lot to take in. And you like this monster that is racism is like, when is this going to end?
Right.
And what can we do to improve, to make a change, to make all like more people aware of it. Like, don't think like, oh, okay, it's just, we're having a crisis now. No, it's been like, life story is the story of our grandparents and great grandparents. It's like, it carries on. Like, my daughter did a keynote presentation on Rosa Parks. She's 8. It was like discovering the history of America, because my children were both born in America. I wasn't born here. I was born in Paris.
Right.
It was, so we've learned about Rosa Parks together, really. And then she was so, enthusiastic about it, and she called Rosa Parks her hero, and
yes.
Just, like, I was so like, it was like such a proud mommy moment,
right?
And then the following week, this is happening. It's like we thought we made like big steps, and no, we're still at the same point. It's like really it's tiny steps, but the monster is still here.
Yep, so heavy. That's I literally spent most of Saturday just in tears. I just couldn't stop. The tears were for our children. The tears were for the many micro aggressions that I've experienced in my life. The tears were for my parents and the struggle. I think of their struggle, their daily struggle to make a life for the family, to get ahead, to support, to go beyond, having, left the Caribbean to go to the UK to make a better life, and the struggle. And you just think, there's so much that's so unseen in terms of the experiences of
it's so much
Black people.
It's expected of us, and then nothing is given really. So like you wonder, like, what's, my children are 5 and 8, like what's next for them? Where, how can I protect them? How can I arm them prepare them the best way, not for them to be fighters, but to be happy.
Yeah.
Just, just find a way, like, where's the happiness? Where's the peace? Because obviously you have to fight for a cause. You have to fight. That's the whole life purpose. Is like, okay, what are we passionate about?
Right.
It's like, you don't want to get into a passion and be like, because it's built on hate. It's built on all pain. And no, we want it to be built on, okay, my daughter is a unicorn and butterflies.
Yeah.
My son is a superhero.
Yeah.
So it's just like, how can we like take those positive images and carry on, still being in a fight, still being, give them the awareness that they have to, be straight on the ground and like lift their head up and look ahead and take decisions and be assertive and ask for their rights and, take what is owed.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, how, like, can they do that with a light heart, not heavy shoulders, like, so the passing of the messages and the passing of, and all the images that we see are about fighting or about confrontation at the moment. So it's just like, we're trying to make them understand, but at the same time, it's like, no, don't take umbrage, like learn from it and see, hey, what's the hope after that? What can we do? As the parent, it's another profession.
It's a whole nother, it really is. I think it's such an interesting conversation around our children, because I think we have been very deliberate about really limiting, as they've been growing up, the conversations around race. I know there's the whole conversation is like, at some point you have to have the conversation. Right? And how do you delay as much as possible before that conversation is had? How do you try to create the experience of childhood that, for as long as possible, that other children get to have? So they do have unicorns and fairies and superheroes and all of that, and they don't have to confront the harshness of it. And if you can protect them for a period, then you protect them as long as you can. That has been our like, shield them for as long as you can. And then as things are arising, then you're dealing with them, but you are figuring out this. Let's deal with it in this way. I don't need you to know the full weight of it yet.
I agree with you, because that builds also the character, that builds the self-confidence, that builds who they are, their personality. And honestly, like today, I realize they're going fast. They tell you when you get pregnant, it's like, okay, you better enjoy it because it's going to go so fast.
Right.
It does.
It really does. It really does.
And I can't wait to see who they're going to be, what their little personality is going to, unfold into, and just who they're going to be. And it's kind of a magical, trying to project those things, positive things, like, okay, my daughter's going to be that, my son's going to be that. Like, I'm not talking about professions necessarily. I'm just like talking beings. About beings, Yeah. That's the spirit these days, because you really have to reflect. You really have to, like, you just like get choked up with, everything that happened with George Floyd, and with all the other lives that were lost, the other Black lives that were lost unfairly and really with cruelty. So it's like, what's next? Like, it's just like, okay, I'm still trying to process.
Because I think one of the things that our children the plan is for our children to go to Europe to do their when they go to college. That's the plan. The plan is that. And this weekend I was like, my daughter's got 2 more years, which is going to go like that, Yeah. And there was part of me on Saturday was just like, I can't wait for her to go. Now, not from the personal perspective of her not being around, but I was like, I do not want her in this space. And it isn't that racism doesn't exist in the UK. It absolutely is thriving there, if we've got our own version of that, or she, wherever she chooses to study, it will be there. But it has the same front. Right? But it has a different edge here. It has a particular nuance that is very violent.
It absolutely is. The violence here, that the delivery of it, it's just it's really like, it goes to the core, makes you fear for your life. You're not afraid for your life in the UK or in France, because of the color of your skin. Here you are, and it's like, I don't want my, and it's hard to, when you're parents, to think, okay, my children are going to live that. No, we don't want that for our children. So hopefully, I'm like looking at better horizons, like trying to like project and pray, and try to focus on things that makes us happy, focus on my professions, focus on my family, focus on on the journey also, like what I've learned along the way and my experiences, and so I can really get the right energy, get the right energy that would suit all of us.
And you're creating as you go. because that's the other thing,
Absolutely.
isn't it? And we are just kind of, in truth, particularly as parents, we're just making it up, for the most part,
Absolutely.
right? As they,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no recipe. There's no books
no,
really. There's no
there really
recipe.
isn't. There's no book
And
for you and yours, right?
when you're an immigrant, really, you don't have family close
Mm-hmm.
by. Like my husband, like grew up in Martinique. He was raised by the village,
Right.
literally by
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
neighborhood. I was born in Paris, and it was just my parents and my brothers. And
Okay.
then when we would go to Martinique for vacation, once every 3 years, we would like really be embraced by the family. I have
Mm-hmm.
like over 50 cousins because
Right.
my dad is from a family of 10, my mother family of 5, so just big family.
You're right.
But here it's just us with the kids. So it's really, you have to go out of the country to find family. So
Yeah.
so we
Mm-hmm.
created our own family here. So we have uncles and aunts, who are like close friends. Who we had friends like for like 12 years, 15 years, the same friends, because I've been in New York since 2002, and then we moved to Los Angeles a couple of years ago,
Okay.
and I've been going back and forth between New York, LA for
For your
business,
business.
and also to Portland, and also to Florida for more business. So it's just been like I've been everywhere until February when everything stopped.
When you came to a stop with that, what are you is there something that you're discovering in the stop about, because I know there's some things that I'm learning in the stop. I
It's
usually I'm usually on the road at least every couple of weeks. So what are you discovering in the stop?
I've discovered a lot of things internally, and also my family wise, and also the business, because I was always in a flight on a flight,
Mm-hmm.
going to New York, to LA, to Portland, to wherever, and talking to the team, the contractors, the architects, and getting involved, and dropping the kids in school and going back and running to somewhere.
Right.
It was the first time that, as a family, we're a family of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and that we, find ourselves 24/7 at home. And I realized that, well, I've missed that. I haven't, seen that. Like, we haven't had like lunch and dinner, and,
Right.
and getting to watch a movie all together as a family, and rediscovered the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the great thing about it. Also, like, I got extra sleep.
Yes.
I got, I got to like meditate a little bit. I got to like get a routine for workout,
Mm-hmm.
like get a little bit of self care, which I didn't have time to do. And business wise, it was interesting to sit down and make a point of where are we with business. The business is 12 years old. We started in New York, worked in different cities now.
Mm-hmm.
So we do residential design, commercial design. We also launched a line of products 2 years ago. We relocated to Los Angeles from New York. So we bought a second property and we lived there. We moved the whole family. And it's a family business. It's my husband and I, and we have a small team.
Right.
There's some of them are in New York and in LA. It's been like make a point of where are we today?
Mm.
How are we doing? What our systems are? How can we improve them? Lately, it's been about curating basically the business, curating the marketing,
Mm.
looking at what opportunities we have to provide better service, to provide better products, to define the brand better, to promote it better, to be a better business owner. Things that I've learned, I didn't know how to do SEO. So I've learned, now I know a little bit more of a back office of my own website, which was delegated to somebody else. So I'm still
Right.
doing it with him. But I'm understanding the process and I can do some of it. The social media is another beast by itself.
That's right.
I've been able to sit down and study and learn and progress and make some improvement. And doing that, actually, I even expanded. I have more product sales, expanded the business in
Yeah.
a way I didn't expect. I was like, okay, now I cannot visit my job site. I cannot meet my clients. But what can I do? I
Right.
can still keep my relationship with my clients, make sure everybody is all right, but keep my relationship with my contractors, with the people I work with the vendors, with architects, and that's a big, big, big. I mean, that's the main part really of the business.
Right.
Designer is relationships. You can't do without relationships, and this is
Yes.
what makes the business also enjoyable. Is like because you're exchanging ideas, you're exchanging your creativity. So you come up with ideas as a designer, and the contractor is able to translate it, or
Yes.
the product manufacturer is able to actually create the piece that you spend time drawings. And
Right.
so it's just been revelations for me that I'm really passionate about what I do, whether I'm still running and taking planes, or whether I'm sitting in front of the desk most of the day and then trying to figure out how to make better products or improving, my business process, how to manage projects and how to manage projects at a distance, which I was already doing because we work in different cities,
Sure.
but it's really now it's like it's the next step.
Right.
So it's like how to improve all these systems. And also like the connections that you have, not only with the people you work with, but the people you live. My husband and I not only live together, but work together.
Yes.
So, so it's been like a whole learning, like how to communicate better, how to separate the private part of us as a couple, us as a family, and then the business. Because before I was okay, I'm leaving. Bye, see you tonight. I'm going to the office, and he was going on the job site, or he had a photo shoot or something.
Yeah.
But now it's like we're
All the
both
time.
here all the time. So it's been also like a challenge at the beginning, a challenge on the relationship, on the family communication, on which also like affects the business. We had a crisis after like 5 weeks. And then after that, it unfolded a whole new world of communications and understanding and saying the things we haven't been saying before. And renewing, like we felt like we're renewing vows,
Right. Right.
So it's just,
Yes.
okay, yes, I love you. And yes, we're making everything possible to go through this period, which is a hard period, but actually it became an easier period, an easier moment because we suddenly got on the same page and said, yes,
Right.
hand in hand. The fact that Mother Nature forced us to be in confinement, in quarantine, it's just resetted a whole lot of different buttons and in a positive way.
Yeah.
And for us,
Fabulous.
and I know some people are going through very, very tough time. People have lost family members, and sometimes it hits very close to the heart, to home. And we've been trying to help, the people who've been around us, and people who've been looking after children, people who've been looking after, who have been our neighbors in New York, in Los Angeles, and it's been like really a matter of communicating and thinking of others and praying together, just hold each other. There's a balance to the whole thing. It's like there's been crisis and they've been very difficult moments. When we came out after the 2008, 2009 crisis, it's like reopening new doors, reopening new, making us realize what is really important, making us like question ourselves. Are we taking the right decisions? Are we focusing? Do we have the right priorities? So it's just like shaken all that and put everything in perspective and gave me new hopes and new dreams and new visions, and just open. I guess the extra sleep also helped.
Yeah, I think the slowing down allows for just the space to do the thinking, do the reflection, and do the seeing. When you're moving so fast, you literally can't even really see each other or in the room. Like if I think about, my husband would leave on Monday, come back Thursday. And then I might leave on Tuesday, come back Friday, or leave on Wednesday, come back Friday because I only have one night, or I leave on, and then the weekend is like basketball, rowing, what I mean? Shopping. And then you might, okay, we'll make some pizza, but you're not really being together in the same way, and you're not really seeing what's really needed, what you need, what others need. So the slowing down is everything. There's so much that you shared that was really resonating with me. And so I'm one of my commitments is like, how do the things that we have valued and have gained, how do we hold on to those things? Whatever that shape becomes, there's the thing that gets determined as things start to open up, and as whatever this 18-month to 2-year window that we're in of this journey together around COVID. And then there's what is it that I want for my life and for my family? And how do I marry that with what I want for my work? And what does that look like? Yeah, so it's raising so many questions, and I'd like to get to some answers before we get to the place where we are actually, where the pull to get back on the plane is there, or the demand, if you like, from clients to get back on the plane. What's happening with me, and what are the choices that I'm going to be making inside of the broader picture that is my life?
It opens new doors. First of all, you find strengths and skills that you discover things about you that you didn't know you had. And that makes a whole difference, because then after that, then these things you thought you didn't know how to do, then you know how to do.
Right.
You've learned because, okay, you're in a situation where, okay, well, I have to know how to cut my son's hair because I can't go to the hair salon. I have to know how to make some bread, and I learned to, normal families from maybe like 40 years earlier we're
doing all the time. Yeah, you're right.
All the time.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how to do those things. So it just like brought in new things for me, which are, very thankful about, actually. It was a shock at the beginning, a scare, and then now it's more of okay, these things happen for a reason, and it gives us new strengths, new potential, really. So
yeah, I'm holding curiosity about how you got started in the first place, because it's quite unusual. I think one of the things that had me want to speak to you, it's so unusual to have an interior designer like yourself doing the work that you're doing, building the kind of business that you're building in such beautiful, it's so beautiful. You do such beautiful work. So I'm curious about, where did it begin, and how challenging or easy has it been to create a business like you've created?
Well, first of all, I was born in Paris suburbs, and so I'm from a family that doesn't have big means, and they originated from the island of Martinique. My family is very creative also. My mother is a painter. I have a grandfather who was a fisherman, but he used to carve sculptures, carve instruments. And then in my journey, I found that I couldn't stay in place. I needed to, I've always been very competitive, very adventurous, curious.
Okay.
Curious of what's out there, and I used to have on my desk over in my bedroom when I was a teenager, like postcards of all different countries of the world, all different cities of the world. And then I ended up visiting a lot of them. So when I worked in France, I worked in Luxembourg, I worked in the UK, in London. I lived in London for 7 years. I worked in New York. I started my career as a manager for restaurants. I did not do a design school at the beginning. I went to business school. So, and then after that, I started working in restaurants, and I was managing restaurant, opening new stores. And I did that in those different countries, and arrived finally in the US with the last company I was working for, who's Pret a Manger. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Part of the management team that came to the US to open the business here in 2002. And I worked in total for them 10 years between the UK and New York. And I went back to school. I was at a stage where I was feeling bored with my career. The creativity was kicking in. My family is creative. I married a photographer. My brother is an executive chef. My other brother is a musician. Who actually does concerts and So it's like the creativity was always there in that family.
Right.
I was the only one who was working in the corporate industry, managing P&Ls and
Right.
people. So at one stage, I decided to go back to school. I first discovered Feng Shui, actually. I was very unhappy at the time of my life. It was around 2005. I was trying to figure out what to do next. Even in my career, I mean, in the food industry, I was really like known as the manager who had everything like aligned. Everything had to be color coded. The display had to be perfect. The uniform had to a T,
Pristine.
pristine. I was always like, for me, presentation was, very important. And so I had an order of things. And it was throughout the 15 years that I work in the food industry, it was always like that, very organized. And also like in this career in the food industry, managing restaurant, managing teams, I've grabbed in so many skills like leadership, communication, organizing, planning,
Right.
like communicating, managing people. So it was all those specific skills that you need to run a business. I've learned them. So when I went back to school, I went to NYU to learn about design. I wanted to have a hobby. And it just it didn't plan out like this at all. I ended up like doing feng shui in my home, like certified as a feng shui expert, because I used all my vacation time to go on seminars for feng shui and just got passionate about it. I went to school at NYU, all the design classes, the evening classes, the weekend classes, the everything off every hour, every minute that I had of my almost 80-hour week of corporate work. I would spend it, in school. And then when I graduated, I started like really questioning where I was, like, and it just opened all the doors. At one stage, I had a client, and I was still working full time. I had to make a decision because it happened for 6 months, and I was exhausted, and I could not do anything fully, 100%.
Right.
So I had to quit the job, and it was 2008.
Oh,
2008.
great timing.
But I was aching. I was in pain. My whole brain, my whole body needed to create. And I just, I left the job. I left the whole career. I left bonuses, 401k, everything. But it changed my life. I never looked back.
Wow.
My life changed also with Feng Shui because brand new energy came. I met my husband. I had children. I bought properties. It's just the business like unfolded itself, and the rest is history.
Wow.
It's been a long road. I mean, the business is 12 years old now, but it's only been like every time a new milestone, every time a new lesson. And we had like things we had to learn. I'm a designer who's kind of self-taught. I did a certification as a designer, but I haven't done internships. I haven't worked for a designer before.
Right. So you're learning as you go.
So I've learned, as I went through, but all my business skills, my corporate skills were really my stronger lies because I've learned, to present projects. So like I really combined all my business skills of managing people, managing job sites, managing budgets to create a beautiful project, combined with, the vision of a beautiful space.
Right.
And adding the Feng Shui energy, because I really learned to, use the Feng Shui, the Bagua, and really create layout with the idea of the right energy in place, using the right elements, using different materials that gives you that harmony, that balance, that supports families in their home. And then it gave me a whole new life goal, a set of all new vision, new life goals, new dreams as I was evaluating. And it's still a reality today. I'm every day, maybe not every day, but, regularly come up with new ideas, new visions, new things I want to do. And I'm very, very blessed that I have a husband who just supports every new idea. Like, I'm the crazy person in the family. But he drives the rest of, he lifts up everybody.
Yes.
And that's how it's been.
What a
And
fantastic,
yeah.
there's so much in there. I mean, the fact that you had the courage to leave your job at the time, which was probably one of the worst times until now, but because the calling for you to be that was so strong, and the kind of inner knowing of what you're meant to be doing with your work, and then trusting that, and it has paid off in terms of that, hasn't it? It really has.
Absolutely. It's 2008, 2009, I think up to 2010, those 2 years, 2008, 2010 were very difficult. I thought I had like a mountain of savings, and not really. And
not when you're living. It's a very different when you've got the savings and you've got work, and then you haven't got work. That savings can go down really quickly.
Exactly, just plummeted. And then I ended up sharing my apartment and sleeping on an air mattress. I had very lows that survived this period. If we survive 2009, we'll survive anything afterwards.
Right.
And after that, it's only been, up and up and up. And the curve has been, bringing us many blessings. I cannot thank God enough for all this. The main thing is never doubting. I refuse to doubt. I refuse to question.
Right.
You want to keep believing, because this is what held me through those 2 years, those 2 difficult years in 2008 to 2010. It's like the belief is like, yes, I'm blogging, nobody's buying.
No one's reading it. Yeah.
No one's reading it. And actually, no, people were reading it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm it's just at the time you didn't have any job. So I had to focus on what made me happy.
Right.
Made me happy to talk about design, talk about Feng Shui, talk about your interior, talk about color, talk about, how your space basically is supportive of your whole life.
Right.
And it carries you. So you want to make sure it's harmonious. It has your colors, your materials, that you feel right. It's not just creating a beautiful space for people. It's about creating a space where they feel right, where they feel good.
Right. Yes.
And that's where they're resourcing themselves. You want to have the right energy creating in the space. So I've had the time to develop all this thinking during those 2 years. And then, things open up, the sky opened up again.
It's so good because the trusting, the consistency, when we see people at the point where you are, I look at your site, for example, people are going to go to your site. And when you go to your site, it's just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And so they're not going to know those 2 tough years. They're not going to know that you're blogging and no one, in the beginning, the first blog, unless it's your friend, no one's reading it. It's just like the first podcast episode. It's a funny thing when you're putting things out and you think, there's literally no one listening to this apart from my family. There's literally no one. At some point, someone will write to you and you go, oh my God, someone's actually listened to it. Or, oh my God, someone's read it.
You do the happy dance.
Yes, right.
So many happy dance. My children actually have this move now. They each develop their happy dance moves.
Right.
So we're celebrating any little wins.
That's right. Celebrate the wins, large and small. Wherever, But the trusting, the faith, the trusting, as you said, they're not doubting, they're not questioning, this is what I'm meant to do. And so and then you get creative on the survival. What do you need to survive in the moment? But
absolutely. But I think also the surrounding you have, it's like surrounding yourself of those people who are in your corner, on your side, who are going to be like cheering you up, who are going to be like, who are there for you. I had the time where people were in my life telling me, oh, you don't have experience in that. You don't know what you're doing. Just go back to work. No, that's what I want to do. And then they try to infiltrate the doubt.
Yeah.
And these people you have to drop right away because they don't believe in you. They don't love you, actually.
Yeah.
So it's really it's important to surround yourself of cheerleaders, people who are going to, if they don't show you the way, but at least they're going to lift you so you can find the way. They're going to lift you up. They're going to feed you in a little bit of positive energy so you can carry on.
Because that's what
little wins with you. Because
because they know what it's taken for you to win too.
Absolutely.
Coming across you again, I remember in the early days when I was in my 20s and I had my first house, and I was and Feng Shui, and I had my first house and had no money. Let's just put it, because it took everything to get the first house. So I was living from credit card to credit card, but that's another story. And I remember coming across Feng Shui, and I was really into it at that point, and then it kind of disappeared as a thing, But I'm curious about, what are the core things that you would say that people would want to think about in terms of their home? Or is it too specific to space that you can't share some core principles? What would you say about it?
Core principle, first of all, Feng Shui is not a crazy science. It's really based on nature, and it works with your intentions, your heart, your head, what you want to, create, what you envisioning. So you want to envision positive things, and Feng Shui is the tool to help you get to those visions.
Okay.
We use different elements, we use the principle of yin and yang. There's a balance in everything. Mm-hmm. You have dark and light. You have, hard surfaces, and you have soft surfaces. Right. You have straight lines and you have curves. So you want to combine all these things that you find in nature, all these different shapes, all this light and dark, and with them inside your home, really. Right. That can be with furniture, that can be with material, a glass coffee table against a beautiful sofa with plush pillows, right. So how to balance those things. There's also the use of the 5 natural elements. So the 5 natural elements are water, wood, fire, earth, metal. Mm-hmm. So they all work together on what we call a constructive cycle. If one is taken out, it's not a cycle anymore. It's just missing out something. Okay. So you want to make sure you have all those elements. And that's what I'm trying to bring into all my design, and also in the products. I want to have this balance, because it's about creating well-being. It's really about creating well-being. Your space is not supposed to be just beautiful. It's supposed to be supportive of you, right. Of your lifestyle, who you want to be, your health, and support every single member of your family. So that there must be also, when designing spaces, when you're designing a home, consideration for each member of the family, what each person needs.
Wow.
And making harmonious. So those 5 natural elements are integrated, in different ways, with materials, with shapes, with colors. So, they are different for everybody, but they all need to be integrated in a way. Some people can't stand color. I mean, they're afraid of color, or they prefer white walls, fine. But how can we integrate all the elements, with wood, with glass, with the metal, different finishes, textures, which are bringing all those elements to make it balanced and harmonious. And then the last and very important element that I'm using is the Qi energy.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that the energy comes into your space and to nourish your space so it can be supportive of you. Right. So for that, no blockages at the door. You want to make sure that the Qi has open path throughout the whole space.
Right.
It's I remember when I started the business 12 years ago, I was doing some Feng Shui consultation, just purely Feng Shui consultation for some clients. And before having larger design projects and townhouses to do and hotel rooms and things like that. So I had more time and more in words, and was very perfecting my Feng Shui knowledge also. So I had a client who said, okay, well, I keep, not getting what I want. And I keep bumping into things. It's not happening for me. So, and we went to his home, met him in the lobby, went to his home. And the first thing that happened when he opened the door, he walked in and bumped his toe in the console table that was right there in the entrance. I was
Right.
like, what is that? Oh, I always bump into that. I'm like, well, it's telling you, and it's just logical,
Right.
true, like intrasect, like plain. The thing is telling you, move me away.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like in the path of the energy, So it's like you block your energy every time you hurt yourself there. Let's move this piece of furniture. Is either too big, not in the right place.
Right.
So this is like, it's just a little example, but this is true. It's like imagery also is like, oh, I keep not finding, having relationships. So let's look at what's on the wall, what representations of relationship you have in your space. And it's like you have one lonely woman on the frame on the wall. That's who you are. You're representing a lonely woman.
Right. Right.
Be putting in, two beings together,
Yeah.
even if it's animal or two shapes. Doesn't have to be a couple on the wall. It can be two shapes mingling together. It
Right.
can be there's a way to imagery basically, and objects around you really have an impact on you, because this is what repetitively you see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you integrating that. So if you keep saying, like even like teenage room, like they have like fighters and monsters, like you could have superheroes, which are like a positive way
Mm-hmm.
to, bring in like this need of being the strongest,
Right.
the best. And my son is like that. It's like you have to have. But if you have like monsters and like scary things, and
Mm-hmm.
then your child is starting to lose sleep, not doing well in school, what are the representations? What do they see on a daily basis? What actually are they feeding their psyche with?
Yes.
So there's something for everybody in Feng Shui, and it's really a great way to analyze when you come in a home, analyze what's wrong, not just with the home, but basically how it affects the people who live there.
Yes.
It can affect their careers, it can affect their health, it affects, relationships. So it's important and that's what I've tried to do. To the best of my ability, when creating spaces, is thinking first about the people. It's not just
The actual
creating
layout of the space is who's
exactly
in
a
it.
beautiful picture for a magazine. No, it's about, is it fulfilling your needs and your visions and what you want in life, and how you want to be supportive, and how you're resourcing yourself when you're not at work. I want to have an impact on people, a positive impact on their life. And this is, so I guess that's why this is not something I started with first, because I needed that to achieve that maturity,
Right.
and to find what I really wanted, what I was all about, before I went to design.
Yeah, it's
But
rooted in your commitment to people having healthy lives, having full lives, and so
absolutely,
like it's emerged out of that, and maybe that's what's also present when you see the images of your work. Do you know what I mean? Because there is something that is, there's something beyond the design that's emanating, because it's not that, because it's not like I look through magazines and see beautiful spaces all the time.
yes.
But there's something about when I landed on your first, it was on your Instagram, I'm sure it was Instagram, and then it was then I looked to your site and I was like, wow, there's
Thank you.
really something very powerful. So it makes a lot of sense to me when you're sharing that. And it's also giving me, it's having me, so I'm like doing my own like clock of my
You're
home
like,
going,
you
am
need
I
to be
bumping
doing a
up against,
tick
what am I bumping up against? Or, oh my God, I should clear that up. Or, I'm totally having like, what
It's like,
images
don't
are on our
hold on
wall?
to things that don't make you happy. It has to be like,
There are
this
things
is
that,
like,
there is
it
an
has to be like
image that I've got that I'm,
getting like, keeping things that bring you happy memories, happy feelings. And it's not easy. Sometimes you have like some old a sweater that whoever gave you and saying, oh, it's like, and they're like, no, is it bringing you any happy memories?
Right.
Like piece of furniture or dishes that your great grandmother had, but it's just like, okay, that chair that it's not your style. It's like, how
Right.
can you make changes to it, like modify it to make it your stuff so it makes you happy, or just, or can
Or
you
just
get
move
rid
on.
of it,
Exactly. Let's
or
take a
move
picture
it
of it and
somewhere
move
else,
on.
or
Yeah.
make somebody else happy and make a
Yes.
good deed. So you're happy and they're happy.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what are the solutions there? So it's like, it's, as designers, I think it's about that, creating, like coming up with solutions for people's lifestyles, for people's well-being into their homes. So it's supportive of their health, their happiness, their goals.
That's
That's
the
been my focus.
that's
Focus.
and what a
So,
great work to do, like all these spaces that you're creating that people move in and out of and are impacted in. It's just such a what a beautiful thing to do, like to be spending your time in thinking about people in that way. And I realize that I wonder, when we don't pay attention enough to our home, how ungrounded we can be, because it really it is the place which creates strong foundation for us. And when people, obviously, when they're transient, or when they are displaced in some way, it's so unnerving and has a huge impact on people. So,
absolutely.
yeah. I hope that you've been inspired to shift gears in your own life. I loved this interview with Marie. Our conversation, as I said, went on and on and on, because we're having such a great conversation. And one of the things that has really inspired me about her story is, in the midst of 2008, where there was the downturn, and that her leaving her job to start her own business, to follow her passion, to follow her own dream, was courageous and has totally worked out. I mean, if you see where she is today. So it tells us that sometimes we get stopped by what doesn't seem like the obvious thing to do, or doesn't seem like, is this the right time? And sometimes the most challenging moments can turn into be the right time. So it kind of has me pause, because we are in a similar moment, and maybe even worse really than 2008. And so what are the things that our own passions, and maybe actually crystallized for us when we're in challenging times, what matters? So following your passion, following your heart and what brings you joy can pay dividends. So that's what one of the things I took away from my conversation with Marie. She's Got Drive is produced by Cassandra Vortolina. The music is by the awesome all-female band Blonde. Please get in contact with me on @Shirley McAlpine on my Instagram, or you can find me at She's Got Drive podcast Facebook page, or you can also find me on my website shirleymcalpine.com/contact me. I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you so much for listening. Go well and stay well.